from 2003 to 2015, 12 years long, that if I can't recall, I can't be an active member of that council, can I?
How can you not recall a membership of 12 years? I mean, we've just shown your name listed there. I've got another document I can show you of your name listed in the other association. That's two associations, association lasting 12 years, and you can't recall it?
Well, I can tell you that I have never been a member of this council, and yeah, it can happen. They can put your name there without your knowledge.
The Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague has said...
Okay, so people say the defence was by Scott Morrison and other of her colleagues is that she's a new, inexperienced MP, but in one of her first major interviews as an MP, she'd already mastered the art of saying, I can't recall, somebody must have added my name to this membership without my knowledge. So if you're saying I can't recall in the first question, then you're off to a bad start.
Well, I guess it comes down to the most important factor here is that we need to have faith in our politicians, and that we have this massive country on our doorstep that's trying to infiltrate us. Let's just put it this way. It's very difficult to become part of the Chinese Communist Party. They don't just slot you in as if Xi Jinping put her on the list to try and expose her and get her kicked out of Australian politics. That's the only option. That's the only other theory that I could have why she would be there. ASIO warned Malcolm Turnbull about her. This is another thing that I discovered.
Yeah, this has been reported.
What we're discussing right now is it's all throughout the mainstream media. So all I'm doing is giving you information that the mainstream media is covering, and it's really good to see that the Australian media has picked up on every aspect of the subversion in Australia. And 5 to 10 years ago, I wouldn't even been able to discuss these topics with anybody without being called a racist. Gladys Liu, by the way, she was queried about Hong Kong in the past, and she was asked about the extradition bill and what she thinks about it, and all she did was say that she would like a peaceful end to the
Yes,
protest.
I remember that. She was extremely vague.
That's if a politician of ours supports the pro-Beijing protests in Hong Kong, we know that they're in bed with the CCP. It's that cut and dry, because nobody would support a dictatorship doing what they're doing to the freedom-loving Hong Kong people. It's like when Sam Dastyari was caught giving the speech
Shanghai
about
Sam.
Yeah, and I watched Q&A last night. Or when was it? Monday night.
Yes.
It was very disappointing because Sam Dastyari was fidgeting and he was sweating and he seemed irrational, as if he was on some sort of drugs or something. The only rational person at that entire panel was John Lee, and I've been following John Lee's work for a very long time. He was by far the most intelligent person at that panel, and he had the most insightful information, yet the entire panel just shut him down. Some Eva Cox feminist shut him down as well. Sam sat down. It was very disappointing to see John Lee, who is a highly educated man, and this is his topic, talking about infiltration of governments, and it was very disappointing, let's just put it that way. And then I went through Twitter and I just saw many Australian people disrespecting John Lee as well. There's still work to be done, let's just put it that way. People need to wake up.
Yeah, and it didn't help that Scott Morrison at the end of the week played the race card, saying that to attack migrants such as Gladys Liu is an insult to all Chinese Australians. And
I call this covert white supremacy. It's my own definition. What it is if you are someone who hangs out with only white people, your partner's white, your children are white, your friends are white, your work colleagues are all white, you live in a white bread area, you don't really know much about the outside world, and you think that you are superior. So someone like me who is hangs out with a lot of immigrants, travels abroad all the time, is not racist in any way, shape, or form. If I criticize someone, they feel like it's their opportunity to step in and let me know that I'm a superior white man by calling me racist, and how dare I punch down. And that is covert white supremacy in my opinion, because they're trying to let me know, hang on, don't you know that you're superior? You shouldn't be bullying these lesser human beings. And that's my opinion of Scott Morrison.
The Melbourne seat of Chisholm is poised to make history.
Hello, how are you? I'm good.
Both major party candidates are in a race to become the first Chinese-Australian woman in federal parliament's lower house.
This is the Young Labour's candidate.
Labor's Taiwan-born Jennifer Young says she'd be honoured to claim that title.
I think it's about time our parliament reflect the modern Australian, reflect the diversity of our country.
I love Chisholm.
The Liberal Party is also chasing that record.
Hi, I'm Gladys.
Gladys Liu migrated from Hong Kong 33 years ago and says her cultural heritage makes her relatable to locals.
A lot of them are very excited because, well, knowing the candidates who can speak not only English but also Mandarin and Cantonese, that's my first language, that made it easier for some of them to communicate.
The marginal seat once held by Julia Banks is among the country's most linguistically and racially diverse. 1 in 5 voters here is of Chinese heritage. The contest has already made history, with the first federal election debate conducted in English and Mandarin. In the New South Wales seat of Barara, Greens candidate Monica Tan is proud of
Yang, she is not Chinese herself. She's from Taiwan, but she's been she's a member of these same groups that Gladys Liu is, who's from Hong Kong. And going back to the ICAC, the $100,000 donation from Hung Drengimo and the Audi bag, the alleged facilitator of that, Ernst Wong, who was a former Labour State MP, he was from Hong Kong, born in Hong Kong, but this is CCP Chinese mainland business.
Well, okay, so if we were going to infiltrate China, reverse it. Would we send an Aussie with a cowboy hat from the outback? Or would we try and find a Chinese person that wouldn't necessarily fit the James Bond mold to try and infiltrate them properly? And the very fact that a lot of the media is mentioning, oh, she's from Hong Kong, so therefore she's safe, is absolutely ridiculous. Or someone from Taiwan. Taiwan is flooded with the CCP. They've got their own political parties trying to overtake Taiwan from within. Hong Kong has been infiltrated with the Chinese since the 50s. So the idea that someone from Hong Kong, oh, well, they're fine then, is absolutely ridiculous. Someone from Malaysia could infiltrate us and be a CCP spy. Scott Morrison could be a CCP spy for all I care. I'm not that interested in Gladys Liu or the finer details in that, because I feel like what we're doing was the sea's coming in, and what we're doing is we're trying to patch up the wall.
Yeah.
Gladys Liu is the beginning of 1 million of these. And if a Hong Konger doesn't work, they're going to send a Russian at us. They're going to turn a British-born Chinese background person at us. This is going to continue until they get the prime minister that they want, and they effectively destroy our democracy from within. Sam Dastyari, he escaped this awful. His parents escaped an awful war zone, and his parents came here, and they obviously realized, look, we need to push our son into politics and gain power. So people that escape an awful situation like a genocide, they want their children to become powerful. And that's a warning as well, because when you look at Gladys Berejiklian, her parents came from an Armenian genocide. What do we have? And the problem here is that the Australian people are not motivated enough to take control of our own country. And if we're not careful, the small 1% of Chinese will rule over us the same way they do it in Indonesia, the same way they do it in Malaysia, the same way they do it in many countries or all over Asia, if we're not careful.
Scott Morrison, he took to WeChat, the Chinese social media, to defend Gladys Liu. And Gladys Liu, during the 2016 federal election, she used WeChat to promote the then Liberal candidate Julia Banks. Now, it's just described in the media as the Chinese version of Facebook, but what is it really?
Well, WeChat, when you download that app, it watches everything that you do. There is 1 billion people on WeChat. It is no joke. There's a lot of people on this app. I recently saw in the news that Huang Xingmo, his bank accounts have been frozen, which I thought was great, because I've mentioned that before. I actually mentioned it with Steele, that's one of the tools that we have at our disposal. Another tool that we have at our disposal is blocking WeChat in every Western country. And I'm just waiting for the moment that the United States steps in and we have a huge attack on WeChat the same way that they had on Huawei. WeChat needs to go, and we need to do something about it. But if I can think about it, I guarantee you that ASIO and the CIA, they're all watching it very closely. And I think it's so naive. If I have no idea, but if Scott Morrison has WeChat downloaded on his damn phone, and then he puts that next to his bed, and he has private conversations with his wife, or he carries that phone around and has talks about national security, that phone with that app WeChat is recording what he says. I don't have WeChat on any of my phones for a very good reason. It's dangerous. They can gather information from you.
Well, I still take the libertarian perspective that you can't just ban a social network, even though it is like a spy ring. Basically, like if you're stupid enough to download WeChat and put all your personal information on it, then you're just a sucker. People have said in the chat that so WeChat's just like Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. And that is for you guys at home listening to me talk, you're probably thinking, oh, well, he's got double standards. Well, how's this for a good metaphor? We all have a football team. And do you complain when your props do a good hit up? Or do you just think, oh no, we shouldn't do a hit up. We shouldn't tackle them either. We don't want to hurt the other team. Depends on what team you're on. Their team is WeChat. Their team, if it wins, will take away our freedom, take away, gather data on us and use it against us. I like Facebook, because it's gathering data on our enemies. I like my props doing the biggest hit up possible. I like to be 10 times more powerful than Indonesia and China. I don't want to be the little weakling that gets run over by their props. And that's a big, that's also arrogance on the Australian people's part, because they just think, oh, well, we're so powerful that we don't have to worry about anything. They can't hurt you. But they can hurt you, and they're coming for you. One thing I liked when I went to Indonesia recently to check it out was that the majority of people can't afford data over there. So Facebook gives you free data. All you need is a SIM card. So what they do is they get every single person in Indonesia on Facebook, and Facebook owns WhatsApp. So they're gathering data on, 200 million Indonesians. Who does that benefit? It benefits Australia because we're part of Five Eyes. Just because the Australian people don't know what's really going on and how dangerous all these things are, if WeChat can gather your personal information, they can use it against you in a multitude of ways that you could not imagine. That what's happening with Iran is connected directly to China. We want to cut off their oil supply. We want to shut down Iran, and it does. And even in the public sphere, they were talking publicly in the news about us only having a month's supply of fuel. They were talking about that before it heated up with Iran. That's not an accident. People behind the scenes knew what was coming. And we've diversified since then. It's not all coming from Singapore. Our jet fuel is diversified a little bit. We get a bit from South Korea and Japan as well, just in case something happens to one of those countries. But we apparently only have 30 days supply. And keep in mind, if something does happen to our oil supply or fuel supply, the general public will be the last people to get it.
Chinese students being a large revenue source for the universities, with and they've got the Confucius Institutes as well, and that is another national security issue. And so, yeah, as you said, there's so much that we've got to get on top of.
And we can do that by setting the rules. We need to set the rules and make sure that there are rules for people who come to Australia, which we have not done. I guess if I was in charge a long time ago, there would have been rules for everybody entering the country. It wouldn't have just been... it's not human nature to appreciate it when you give them freebies. They appreciate it when they earn it. So when someone comes to Australia and we hand over not only citizenship, but Medicare and all of the freebies that go with our clean air and our democracy and freedom, these people don't necessarily appreciate it. They feel like, okay, now it's my... Someone born in Australia should not have to compete with someone that has just received citizenship, because they don't in America. In America, you have to earn your place and you have to prove yourself all the time. But in Australia, it seems like we have all of these people who are first-generation Australians, or they're immigrants to Australia, and they get into politics and they start pulling the strings on how we're going to be ruled. And that is totally outrageous from my point of view. Someone that, if you look at where Gladys Berejiklian's parents came from, or if you have a look at Iran right now, where they have signs up of martyrs that blow themselves up, their parents came from that background, and their children are ruling this country. These are not necessary. That's not the type of... It depends on how you see the world. Do you see it as nature or nurture? I see nurture as a very important factor.
The reason Gladys Liu's under attack is because she's the winner. If Jennifer Yang had won, she'd be the one in the hot seat. But she'd just be a Labour MP. I don't see Gladys Liu resigning, but like obviously when it comes to the next federal election, because there's been a lot of James Campbell from the Herald Sun has done a lot of reporting on fundraising she's done, where that's come from, donations she hasn't declared, and some Victorian Liberal Party money had to be returned because of national security concerns, and then her local branch wanted to relax foreign investment laws. So where do you see Gladys Liu's future political career going, and if she falls or she stays, like, what's the significance of that?
It's finished, and if she doesn't go, Scott Morrison will go. Michael Daly said that immigrants are taking our jobs, something which is a fact.
But he lost the election over it.
It's a fact, and he got fired, or he resigned, or whatever happened to him. The problem is that what he said was not as bad as what Gladys Liu has done, and it's nowhere near as bad as what Scott Morrison has done either. And Scott Morrison needs to go. If Gladys Liu stays, and Scott Morrison needs to go, and we need to send him to China. Shanghai ScoMo.
You're bloody ruthless, you are.
No, he has to go. He has to go. It's serious. You have to have the faith of the Australian people. We don't vote these pricks in so that they can pander to a foreign government. And when China was weak, they didn't pander. That's how they were able to rise up. You can't start up a business in mainland China unless you have a local partner. You have to go to Hong Kong and start up your company, and then you still need a partner. Things are changing even more so with China, but the Chinese people can come straight here and start up a business and compete with the Australian people. It's just outrageous. We're being beaten at our own game within our own country. And our politicians are pandering to the enemy, because China is the enemy. The thing is, it might sound outrageous to the Australian people right now, but it's heating up. And if they're not aware of how serious this is, it is going to get so serious that some big shocks are going to happen to the Australian public. And they're going to be shocked when things happen. It's only going to get worse, and the Australian people need to wake up now and start protecting themselves, and we need to protect ourselves from ruthless authoritarian governments, as in our government. Our government will eventually become more and more authoritarian if we allow this to happen.
If they become our masters, Chinese Communist Party, yeah, who knows what's possible. Everyone in the live chat has absolutely loved what you've said. They've loved you as a guest on the second episode, because this is on a brand new channel, though a lot of them have come over from the Unshackled channel, but for a lot of people this is their first introduction to you, so you'll definitely be invited back. There'll probably be another Chinese Communist Party scandal in a couple of weeks. Yeah, and you've actually got a few fangirls in this chat as well, so they want your number.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you.
All right, have a good night, Dave. Glad we could finally chat in the end.